Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome to my second champion guide of the evening. First we had Aatrox, now we're going to take a look at Kayn. Now Kayn is a little bit more complicated than Aatrox. Kayn has basically three different forms. He has his basic form, then he has red form and blue form, which is Shadow Assassin, and Rast form. So I'm going to try and explain to you as easy as possible with each ability and how it works with upgraded. I probably won't be able to show you the exact abilities in practice tool because it's a little bit hard because you need to try and get both the forms. There's no way to actually pick the forms in practice mode, but I'll probably do a separate video maybe explaining and giving you more gameplay with certain forms and certain builds if you want to have a look at that. But first off, let's take a look at his passive, the Darken Scythe. Kayn, the Shadow Assassin, fights Wrath, the Darken Slayer, for control. Now damaging ranged champions charges the Shadow Assassin, which is the blue bar. As you can see, you've got a red bar and a blue bar underneath Kayn's mana bar. At the moment my red bar is a lot more because I've been attacking the target dummies which count as melee champions. So range form, you stack the blue form, which is Shadow Assassin, which is basically assassin form, and then the melee one, if you attack melee champions, you charge the Darken Slayer, which is the melee form, and at full charge Kayn can permanently transform at his base. So Shadow Assassin, let's see what that does first. Shadow Assassin, after Kayn has not been in a champion combat for a few seconds, his attacks and abilities deal additional percentage magic damage to enemy champions. So pretty much basically an assassin. You're going to build him like an assassin and you're going to play him like an assassin, diving into the back line. Whereas Darken Slayer, Kayn heals for all of his abilities, and all of his auto attacks will heal for physical damage dealt to champions, which all of his abilities deal physical damage and everything as well. So hopefully this won't take me too long. I'm going to quickly get you up into the form, and there you go. There you can see my darkened form has now been complete. You can see in base I can now change into Rast. So if I quickly go back to base, you can see how I can transform into Rast. As you can see here, I walk over here, takes a few seconds, and then boom, I transform into Rast, which is the darkened form, which in my opinion is going to be the best form really for Kayn. I really think that Rast form is going to be the best form for Kayn. One of the easiest forms as well to get, because most of the time you're going to be playing melee champions with Rast form. Now I actually don't think there's a way for me to go back into normal form. So yeah, that was the passive. I'm going to quickly quit and go back into the game so I can show you the abilities and what they do in both of the forms. Because again, practice tool is a little bit difficult to do in Wild Rift because there isn't really a way to select the forms and show in a way. But I just wanted to quickly show you how you get each form and how easy it is to basically go back to base and transform. So you see what happens is that either your blue or your red form will be glowing, and when it starts to glow and when you see that little portal in the base, that means you can go back to base, stand over it, and you can easily use it. So I'll quickly go back into the game. Sorry about the delay again. Practice tool is not the best on Wild Rift. We can't easily select what form we want. So I'll quickly go back in here into the game, and then I can explain all of the other abilities to you. Let's disable the bot. Let's give us a Fog of War. Give us a few levels, and also give us a little bit of gold so I can buy some items as well. Right. Happy days. Right, let's go through the abilities now, which obviously, as I said, the abilities are going to be different with each form. As you can see with the abilities, you got darkened form, and you also have the other form as well, which is shadow form, which for some reason it's not showing shadow form on the first ability. I think because most of the time it's the same. Anyway, let's take a look at the first ability. Gonna spawn a few target dummies as well. Sorry, should have done this before, but you know, it is what it is because we can't see it. Anyway, first ability, Reaping Slash. So dashes and deals physical damage, then spins his scythe to deal the same damage. So you basically have two parts of the first ability. You have the first charge, then you have the second charge. As you can see, so first charge and then the second charge. So sometimes you might not even be able to hit your first charge, so you can only hit your second charge. So you got first charge, second charge. So that first charge is going to deal damage, and the second charge is going to deal that AoE damage. Now the great thing with this ability is you can actually use this ability up against the wall and actually easily reduce the cast time. Do you see how quick my cast time is? If I use it like this, my cast time is longer. If I use it up against a wall, that first part where you dash forward is basically cancelled. That means that the damage is going to be a lot easier. Now, this is really, really good when taking jungle camps. If I want to take this jungle camp, for example, if I walk up against the wall, I can just easily just do that. Easy walk up to the wall and just dash against the wall. Make sure you don't go obviously over the wall. But again, auto attack, first ability up against the wall. You just stand up against the wall here, first ability. As you can see, it's so much quicker to use the first ability when clearing jungle camps with the first ability. So that is really, really important, making sure you do that. Now, the Darkened Slayer deals damage and also plus a percentage of the target as maximum health instead, and deals additional damage to monsters and minions. So you can deal more damage easily. So basically, Kayn is going to be a jungle champion. Now, the cool thing is that in Shadow form, you're going to be able to deal increased damage, and in Darkened form, as you can see, that most of the time you're just going to be dealing extra damage as well. So there's not really much to show for the first ability. It's just a very, very simple ability for Kayn. The second ability is where it gets interesting for both the Shadow form and the Darkened Slayer. So Blaze Reach is the second ability. It swipes the scythe forward, dealing physical damage and slowing enemies hits. Now, in the early game, before you get your form, this is very, very weak. But once you get the Shadow Assassin, once you get the Darkened form, this is where it becomes even more powerful. So Shadow Assassin, Kayn can move whilst using this ability and has increased range. So the second ability, you can use your second ability to start a fight, and then you can still use your third ability to get through walls. You can still use your first ability to dash on top of them. There's not going to be, you see at the moment when I use second ability, I can't move. You see when I use it, there's like a slight delay. You're not going to have that delay in Shadow form. You can just use your second ability and then easily walk up and use your second ability straight afterwards if you want to. Really, really powerful when you're playing Assassin, which means you can easily dive onto the back line and deal like double the amount of damage because your second ability will hit, and then you can still get into melee range to use your first ability and your auto attack. And then Darkened Slayer additionally knocks up champions hit for 1 second. So most of the time, Shadow Assassins are really good against squishy champions, and Darkened Slayer is really good against bruisers and assassins because you're going to be dealing that percentage maximum health damage, and you're also going to be healing from your abilities, and you also have a little bit of CC as well with your second ability, which I think is going to be very, very strong. For the third ability, we have Shadow Step as well. You can also use the second ability through walls as well. I forgot to mention you can use this through walls. Make sure you keep an eye on that as well. So that is really, really important to make sure you use that as well. Your first ability, as I mentioned, can go through walls. You can do like auto as well. You know, there's a few other things to the first ability as well, but yeah, hitting up against the wall with the first ability is the most important thing. Right, third ability. So the third ability is Shadow Step. So you grant movement speed and can move through terrain for 6 seconds, which is obviously the duration is increased obviously per level. Kayn restores health as well when you're moving through a wall, so make sure you keep that in mind. If you are low on health, then you can use this to move through walls upon entering terrain for the first time. Being immobilized or spending more than 1.5 contested seconds outside the terrain or in combat with enemy champions ends this ability early. So that means, and when you're using the third ability, if you stay in the wall for too long, once the ability is ended, as you can see, it lasts quite a long time, but if you stay in, it will always push you to the closest terrain possible. So I can use my third ability as much as possible. I can use my first ability to also get to other terrain. But as soon as my third ability ends, it's going to push me to the closest terrain. So say, for example, I'm standing here and I'm closer to the tower. It will push me towards the tower. So you have to be very, very careful. But as I mentioned, you can use your first ability to quickly get, from wall to wall if you really want to, or you can even use your flash as well to get from wall to wall very, very quickly. As you can see, very, very quickly and easily be able to get from wall to wall. So it's really, really strong. And then Shadow Assassin, you gain movement speed instead and become immune to slows when using your third ability, and the cooldown is reduced to 9 seconds, which the cooldown at the moment is 8 seconds, so it kind of doesn't really make any sense. But I guess the cooldown is longer once the game goes on, and probably once you transform into Shadow form. Now, the cool thing about your third ability as well is that you don't have to actually go through walls all the time to use your third ability. Your third ability is going to give you extra movement speed. So say if you want to reduce the range, if you say, for example, this target dummy I'm trying to chase him down, If I'm just walking normally, it's going to be slower. But if I use my third ability, I'm going to get increased movement speed so I can close the gap much quicker. So that is really, really important to note that. And then lastly, we have his ultimate, which is Umbral Trespass. So affects an enemy champion for a few seconds, becoming untargetable. So you can actually dodge crowd control with his ultimate, which is really important. So say if you've got a Malphite ultimate coming towards you, make sure you use your ultimate to be able to get that when you can. When the infestation ends, the target is dealt physical damage, and you can also end it early if you want to. So when you use this on a champion, you can just use it, and then you can see this targeting here. If you don't use it in the end, it will go for you. You can end it early if you want to, and just go boom, just like that. You use the ultimate and then use it to dash in any direction you want to. But the longer to stay in, the more you become invulnerable. And you can also use this to dash over walls as well. So it's very, very important to time your ultimate at the correct moment. Our Shadow Assassin increases this ability's range, the distant Kayn exits, and refreshes the Darkened Scythe cooldown on exit. Which Darkened Scythe cooldown is your passive, which is the extra damage that you're able to deal, you know, once you've not been in combat for a long time. So you can use your ultimate for your shadow form to then reset your passive, so you're going to be able to deal additional damage with attacks or abilities most of the time when you're not in champion combat, but this will mean it will reset on the ultimate. And then Darkened Slayer, it deals percentage targets maximum health again, and instead Kayn will heal for a percentage of the target's maximum health. So you may want to use this when you're low on HP in darkened form, the red form, so you're going to be able to heal up a lot and then come back into the fight. And again, it's a lot more of a tankier build, so it's a lot more important. So that is pretty much everything with Kayn. There's one combo I wanted to show you. There's not really that many combos with Kayn, to be honest. The main combo is when you use your second ability first. You can go second ability into first ability, auto attack, and then use your ultimate straight afterwards. That is your basic ability that most of the time you're going to be using. You can then use this with your third ability as well. So second ability, first ability, auto, and then ultimate to then jump back out. That is going to be your quickest and easiest combo, and to be honest, is the only combo really that you need to know for Kayn. Now, let's take a look at the leveling order for Kayn. Now, Kayn's a very interesting one for leveling order, because on PC League, most of the time you actually went for your third ability at level 2. Now, for your first ability, it's really easy. It's just your first ability. Now, level 2, normally you go for your third ability because of the extra healing you get. But in Wild Rift, I don't think you need that extra sustain. I think it's actually a lot easier to go for your second ability so you can clear a lot quicker. And then you can go for your third ability if you want to at level 3. Or you can go even more crazy, and if you're going to do a full clear jungle camp clear with Kayn early, which I highly recommend, by the way, because Kayn's not really the strongest in the early game, you go first ability into second ability, and at level 3 you go for your first ability again to put 2 points in your first ability, because this is going to increase your clear speed by a lot. And then when you run to reach level 4, then you can go for your third ability and then go for your ultimate. But as I mentioned, in the early game, Kayn is not the strongest. Before he gets his form, he is not the strongest. So what you want to do most of the time is go for a full jungle clear and then try and look for easy ganks. Try and look for easy pickoffs, easy little bit of damage here and there, so you can get your form quicker. You want to max your first ability. That is the most important, maxing your first ability, and then you want to max your second ability, and then you want to max your third ability. That is the order that we are going to do with the leveling order for Kayn. Right, this is Kayn is very, very complicated. I'll probably do another video explaining both the forms, because it's very, very complicated to explain it all in one video. But now we're going to take a quick look at the build. I'm not going to spend too much time on these builds because, again, I'll probably do another video explaining it. This is your Darken form build. Again, as you can see, a lot more tankier, not a lot of damage, and it's all about being a bruiser if you're playing Darken Kayn. It's more of a fighter build. Items like Black Cleaver, which you can proc very easily with auto attacks and your first ability, because your first ability will deal damage twice. Death Stance, a lot of healing, a lot of resistances as well at the same time, and a lot of damage with ability haste. Most of the time you're going to be going for defensive boots. You can go for boots lucidity if you want to as well, which most of the time for your boots upgrade, I think it's just going to be stasis or gargle stoneplate when you're playing bruiser. Sterak's Gauge as well to give us the extra base attack damage and also a lot of maximum health and the lifeline passive when we drop low on HP. Mortal Reminder I think is going to still be really good even for Darkened Form for Kayn. You can go for Thornmail if you want to as well. This is a lot more of a tankier build for Kayn in Darkened Form. You can go for like a split, like a hybrid between tank and damage, or you can just go for a full tank build if you want to, which if you do, you can just go for Thornmail for the anti-heal instead. But Mortal Reminder is also very good for anti-heal. And then for lost item, you have Spirit Visage. Again, Darkened Form, as we've seen already, all your abilities, all your auto attacks are all going to be healing. So Spirit Visage is going to increase that healing by 30%. For the runes, Conqueror, really strong on Kayn on Darkened Form, because you're going to be in fights so often. You're going to be auto attacking a lot, you're going to be tanking a lot of damage, so it's going to be really important to go for Conqueror. Sudden Impact I think is going to be really good for Kayn, because you're going to be dashing a lot, you're going to be blinking a lot. You know, it's going to be really important for Kayn to get the extra armor penetration as well, especially Darkened Form. But if you don't think that Sudden Impact is going to be good, you can also go for Triumph. I think Triumph is also going to be pretty good, but I want to give Sudden Impact a try. I think it might be pretty good. Bone Plating as well, really good, because when you're in Darkened Form, Bone Plate is really nice. And then Hunter Genius as well. You want to stack as much ability haste as possible, use your abilities as much as possible as well. And then for some spells, we got Flash and Ignite. An Assassin form is completely different. So this is blue form. This is your Shadow Assassin build. A lot of movement speed as well, which, as you know, already seen from the abilities, you're going to get a lot of speed from your third ability, and you're also going to get a lot of speed from Youmuu's Ghostblade. Armor being unseen for a second cause your next attack to deal bonus physical damage. This means when you're coming in with your third ability, you're going to be unseen because you're going to be in the wall. They won't be able to see you when you're in Rishi. You're going to be playing Assassin form. Serpent's Fang, if you're against a lot of shielding, this is very good. Even if you're not against a lot of shielding, I think this item will still be very strong for Kayn. Serrader's Grudge as well for the slows. This makes it really easy for you to jump on top of the enemy backline, because slow is going to be so important. Means you can use your ultimate and your other abilities on top of that and get into range of your auto attack. And then Edge of Night as well. With Edge of Night means you're going to get the extra shield, maybe Mortal Reminder, but I think the slow is just going to be really important for Kayn. And for runes, it's a little bit different. Now, Electrocute might be changed for Conqueror. We're going to have to test out the new. It's going to be very important or not. Or if you don't want to go for Electrocute, I think Conqueror is still going to work great for Shadow Assassin, because you actually get the extra AD and you also get the Omnivamp once you get full stacks, which is very easy to do on Shadow Assassin Kayn. Sudden Impact again, giving you more armor penetration when you're dashing and you're hitting enemy. If the extra resistances, the extra you taking less damage, sorry, is going to be really nice. Then Hunter Genius again for the ability haste, and then for some spells we have Flash and Smite. Again, a very complicated champion to understand. Hopefully I explained it as simple as I could. Like I said, very difficult champion to understand. Again, I'll probably do separate videos on both Red Kayn and Blue Kayn, and try and explain as much as possible kind of the tips and tricks for both Red Kayn and also Blue Kayn form as well, because I'm very excited to play these two champions. These are two of my favorite champions coming over from PC League, so even though I'm not a Baron lane or a jungle lane main, I'm really excited to check them out. So yeah, make sure you tune into the stream tomorrow for patch 3.5 gameplay. We got a lot of stuff to cover. ADC changes, champion changes, new champions, new runes, a lot of stuff to cover, so I'm really excited to give it all a try. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow on the stream for patch 3.5. Take care. Peace.